Enjoy early access to ad-free episodes each week when you subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium in Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the Wedding Planning Podcast, and thank you so much as always for joining me. I hope you're having a great week and I hope you're enjoying your engagement. Today I have a great show to share with you, and here's a quick roadmap of where we're going. The theme of this week is after the wedding. I know when you're in the thick of planning, it can feel like this phase of life is gonna last forever, that you're gonna be signing checks and booking vendors and interviewing people forever. It's never gonna end. But believe it or not, at some point you will actually be married, and alas, wedding planning will wrap up. I see a pretty split reaction to this, with half of us saying, thank God, the wedding can't come soon enough, and having all that extra brain space back from planning and organizing will be amazing. And on the other hand, there are also plenty of us who absolutely love the engagement phase, who love planning out all the details, and who are in no way looking forward to it coming to an end. Post-wedding blues are a real thing, and we're going to talk about that today too. During the second half of today's show, I have a very actionable checklist of things that will need to be handled after your wedding. So if you're sad about it all coming to an end, don't worry, it doesn't actually end. There is still lots more to do even after the wedding day has come and gone. To get us started today, I have some post-wedding takeaways and advice from past wedding planning podcast couples, and I'm going to share a few of their notes here. I love doing this style of advice because it gives you a crystal ball into the future, and it allows you to see what other couples have already been through, and then kind of take that back into your planning wherever you are right now and have that foresight. That's just so, so valuable. So the first email I'll share is, thanks in part to your podcast. We were very intentional from the beginning about our priorities. Our number one priority was to bring all of our closest loved ones together in one place to celebrate, something that's very rare for most of us. We both come from very large families, but did not let that stop us from being intentional about who was actually invited. Anytime we would get wrapped up in a tough decision or feel doubt about something, we would simply dial back to the mission statement of our wedding, which was to bring all of our closest loved ones together in one place to celebrate. If the decision contributed to spending meaningful time connecting with our guests, then it got our attention. If not, we simply moved on. That's incredibly wise advice to take to heart. That's an idea that I really focus and zero in on in the Engagement Starter Kit series that I shared at the beginning of the year. Side note, completely unrelated, that series gets very mixed reviews, with a lot of folks submitting feedback that it just is talking in circles and never actually gives any advice. I, on the other hand, am totally biased being the creator of it, but I think it gives some really valuable advice. And this listener's note kind of summarizes that, in the sense that it is just so important that you create a set shared of priorities between the two of you, and then you use those priorities throughout your engagement as a roadmap. Keep coming back to it. And when you operate that way, you wind up with a celebration that reflects you and what's important to you. In the very most simple nutshell, that to me is a successful wedding celebration. Okay, little sidetrack there. Let's get back into it. Here's another listener with a very similar theme, writes that, in hindsight, our wedding was the best day of our lives to this point, as cliche as that sounds. And it wasn't because we found the best caterer or venue or photographer. It was because we were surrounded by everyone we love most in our lives for 2 full days, and none of us will ever forget that connection and sense of love. Looking back, I am so happy that we simply said no to a bunch of cookie cutter tradition stuff that didn't speak to us and prioritized having fun. Good food, good drinks, and no worries. I wouldn't change a thing. Love it, love it, love it. This is a space for us to be honest and real with one another. And I did hear from some of you who would have changed some things. Thank you to the moon for being honest about it, because hearing the things that you would go back and change is incredibly valuable to those of us who are still in the planning phases. So here are a couple of those notes. Having a wedding party panned out to be more stress than joy. I'm kind of puzzled that we never even considered not having a wedding party, but that's definitely something that I would suggest other couples at least consider. I also would have been a little more picky about how we spent the wedding day in the getting ready time before pictures and ceremony. It ended up feeling like a really long day of lots of sitting around and waiting for people to get their hair and makeup done. I feel like I would have enjoyed that time more going out to brunch with my female relatives and friends, getting massages, or even going for a long walk. And tied to this, we spent a stupid amount of money on hair and makeup. So not only was it a little frustrating to sit around doing nothing for 5 hours while 8 of us got made up, the end result was nowhere near worth the cost, in my opinion. I know doing your own hair and makeup isn't for everyone, but I literally couldn't tell the difference between a few of the makeup jobs and if we had just done the makeup ourselves. And I'm not even that into makeup, so that tells you a lot. All right. Again, thank you for that honesty. If you're listening, if you're a vendor or you are a friend or relative of someone who is currently planning their wedding, if you have any after the wedding advice to share, I would love to hear that. And you can always be in touch by visiting weddingplanningpodcast.co/contact. And here's one more: reflections from after our wedding. I didn't love our coordinator and wish I had done more research into finding someone more our vibe. At the time we hired her, I felt pressured to lock someone in just to check that box. Throughout our wedding weekend, she was loud, abrupt, and borderline rude to guests at times throughout the day, which I understand is part of the huge job of keeping 1,000 things in line and on schedule. But I feel like there are less aggressive and abrasive ways of being successful in that role. Bottom line, I'd recommend really digging into personal referrals, online reviews, social media, and meeting face to face with the actual person who will be at your wedding day. Great, 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 great advice. And I want to touch here quickly on post wedding blues and kind of a feeling of post wedding depression. This is a real thing. You've been riding high on adrenaline and excitement for months. And when you wake up in the days after your wedding and it's all over, that can feel kind of sad and underwhelming. Any time in life that you've put a lot of yourself and a lot of work into something and then it's over, that can be a really wistful and a really sad feeling. My best advice for life in general when this feeling strikes is first to take a deep breath of gratitude and just be grateful for the fact that you are now married, which is amazing, and feeling grateful for all the memories that you created with your friends and your family. You have photos to look forward to. You have an entire life together to look forward to, and that is pretty damn exciting. For all of my honeymooners, you can look forward to an amazing trip and a fun new experience with your husband or wife. Huge win. So, if you get there, you get to the day and the days and the weeks after your wedding, and you're feeling just that kind of melancholy and sadness that it's all over. I hear you. That's a real feeling. It is a legit feeling to have. And you're certainly not alone in feeling that way. And I'm going to take my turn to share my experience in the days after our wedding. And I felt a mix of all of these things. I felt incredibly grateful. I was really emotional and I was exhausted. It literally took a couple of days to just slow my brain. I felt so mentally scattered from the past weeks and months. And I remember vividly, I would catch myself in crazy thought loops, like my brain was just operating without me even thinking about it. And it would be really weird, like stuff on repeat. Like, where's my purse? Where's my sister Kate? Where do I need to be in 10 minutes? Where do I need to be in 20 minutes? Where did we put the cases of red wine? Don't forget to show the planner where the custom napkins are. I seriously felt crazy for about 48 hours, and it took a long time to decompress from that. Another layer of feelings that I had was tied to a very deep sense of gratitude for what we had just experienced, and also a deep sadness that it was all over. And then kind of mix these together, I just had this brand new feeling of having just added another layer to my life. And it made everything so much more precious and meaningful and valuable. At the time, this was a brand new feeling for me, and it hit me really hard in the days after our wedding. And I'll tell you, from a few years down the road, I had the exact same feelings when our daughter and our son were born in the years that followed. And the best way I can describe it is that my life and my heart had multiplied outside of myself and into my husband, John, and everything that he was and he is, and years later into our children. And that was a very overwhelming experience and very overwhelming feelings that I was not prepared for. And I don't think you can prepare for. So that's just a very candid look into my experience. And I don't classify that as post wedding blues, or I say sadness because I think there's always a touch of sadness when something that you've looked forward to for so long is gone. But yeah, a mix of gratitude and emotions and exhaustion and just deep love, and just kind of sit in it and live it and take it in for what it is. It's just all a part of the experience. I do get emotional just thinking about it. And that was many, many years ago. And it's still just really powerful. So know that you are in for a treat, my friend. Getting married is just such an incredibly special time. And last bit I'll share here, and then we'll move into our after the wedding checklist. Last bit here, we did leave for our honeymoon 2 days after our wedding, and I would personally recommend that timing 1000%. Leaving the day after would have been very stressful, but having 48 hours to kind of regroup and then get away together was perfect. We spent 2 weeks in Italy, and after the whirlwind of planning and the actual wedding weekend itself, it was the absolute perfect way to wind down, relax, and just spend time together. Completely unplugged from our daily lives and everything going on at home. We were literally a half a world away, and it was amazing. Your honeymoon does not have to be fancy or international if that's not in your budget, but if you can get away together, even for just a few days, and simply tune out the rest of the world and just be, I would highly, highly recommend doing it. From your engagement ring to your wedding day, you can protect your most cherished memories with Bright Co. Bright Co. is an insurance provider you can trust with fast, easy, and affordable coverage for your jewelry and your wedding day. With Bright Co., there are no deductibles ever, and you'll enjoy worldwide coverage for loss, theft, damage, even mysterious disappearance. You guys, my best friend Vanessa lost her 1.5 carat diamond ring down a sink drain at a restaurant, and it was never recovered or insured. Heartbreaking. Insuring your priceless jewelry is more affordable than you'd think, with full coverage starting at just $5 a month. Get all of your precious jewelry covered and be protected from the unexpected. Visit bright.co/wedpod for a fast, free quote today and unlock peace of mind knowing you're covered. That's brite.co/WEDPOD. Trust Bright Co. for your insurance needs. Okay, here we go. After the wedding checklist. Here is a list of things that you will need to handle after the wedding day has come and gone. Don't worry if you are hands-free right now. You do not need to frantically write all this stuff down. I will summarize everything in a full blog post that you can find at weddingplanningpodcast.co/after. For my friends who are subscribed to receive weekly show recap emails from me, I will also send this information along to you in an email. If you would like to be on that list to receive show recap emails, again, head to our website, weddingplanningpodcast.co, and you'll see a sign up area right there on the homepage. Okay, so we're going to start kind of in order from most immediate to least immediate things that you'll want to handle after your wedding. And starting with something you need to do probably the day after is return rental items and any borrowed items. So the main thing here would be rented suits or tuxedos is a very popular item. I know many companies want those back within 1 to 2 days. And whether you're mailing them in or physically driving them and dropping them off at a storefront, make it a priority to just get that done. The last thing on earth you want is late fees for suits and tuxedos. Totally avoidable. So I've just given you the first item. Press pause for 1 second and let me backtrack to say a lot of these post-wedding checklist items are going to require the help of family or friends. It would be really, really stressful and really difficult for 1 or 2 people to pull all of this off yourself in the next 1 to 2 days. So please delegate some of these out as appropriate and enlist people to help you take care of some of this stuff. Suits and tuxedos getting returned, that's a perfect example of something that you can delegate to somebody else. Make them the point person for collecting all this stuff and taking the 30-minute drive to drop it all off. And then it's completely off your plate. So yes, that does require some pre-planning. You don't want to wait to decide all of that until the day after your wedding, ideally. But that's why we're talking about this stuff now. So make a plan of delegating some of this stuff out. Again, first checklist item, returning rentals and borrowed items. Anything else in this category, if you rented decorations that you are responsible for returning, or anything that you've borrowed from your friends or family. And I would hope that your friends and family aren't going to bill you with fees and penalties for returning stuff late, but still just a good idea to have it organized and in one spot and ready to be returned when convenient. Okay, next up, collecting wedding decor and leftovers. This goes for even the night of your wedding, is delegating somebody to go around and collect leftover food is a big one. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but bookmark that. Leftover alcohol and any leftover favors, wedding signage, anything that you personally want to keep. Some wedding venues turn it around within like 12 hours. If you got married in a space on a Saturday night, there's a great chance that there is another event coming in there on Sunday morning, and your window to collect anything and secure it and get it taken back to your house is really, really small. So again, this is something that you'll want to delegate. Maybe it's to your coordinator, maybe it's to your mom, maybe it's to a wedding party member. Going around and collecting leftover favors, signs, keepsake items that you want to have. Your wedding bouquet falls into this category, and we'll talk about preserving that in coming up in a couple items. Coming back to food. Again, I know it sounds kind of strange, but you have paid thousands upon thousands of dollars for the food at your wedding. If there is part of an appetizer spread that you want to repurpose, maybe the next day you're having a post-wedding brunch, that could easily be packaged up and repurposed the next day. Same goes for cake. That's a big one, especially if you are going to do the traditional saving of your wedding cake and enjoying it on your 1 year anniversary. That requires some proactive planning. You're going to want to delegate somebody to grab that cake, and then you're going to need to make sure that you wrap it in plastic, put it ideally inside another airtight container, and get it in your freezer so that it's delicious and preserved and ready to go 1 year from now. And last thing from that little category that I want to touch back to really quickly is alcohol. If you have brought your own alcohol into a venue, chances are pretty high that you might have leftovers. And my guess would be that you would want to take those home with you. Maybe you don't end up personally keeping all of it, but unopened bottles of liquor, wine, those are great gifts. Those are great thank you gifts to your wedding party, to your parents, to your coordinator, anyone who's helped you plan. So have a plan in place to be organized about gathering all that stuff from your venue and getting it taken out right after the wedding. Next item here is immediately addressing any outstanding payments or balances due. Pretty self-explanatory there. If you owe somebody money, my guess would be they are going to let you know about it and just make sure that you get those outstanding balances taken care of ASAP. If there's anyone who you meant to pass a gratuity to and that did not happen the day of the wedding, right now would be the chance to do that as well. Next, let's talk about flowers. If you have done professional flower arrangements or even if you've done them on your own, those flowers are going to be beautiful for another day or so, and it's a really meaningful and appreciated way of repurposing them if you can arrange the delivery of your leftover flowers to a local nursing home or a local hospital. Also, on the subject of flowers, we mentioned it very briefly before, but your wedding bouquet. If that is something that you plan on preserving in any way, you'll want to make sure to make arrangements to have it taken and wrapped up securely and ending up in your possession. Your wedding dress, if you plan on preserving your wedding dress, then you're going to want to have it cleaned and have that preservation process done as soon as possible. Wedding dresses go through a lot of wear and tear in just a few hours, and stains will set in very, very quickly. So the sooner you can have it cleaned and professionally preserved, the better. A side note here, do I personally recommend doing this? As someone who got married well over a decade ago, my dress is sitting in a box wrapped in plastic in the rafters of our garage. I have not looked at it, opened it, or really thought about it in over a decade. So take take that for what it's worth. That's just my own personal opinion. But if you had asked me right after our wedding, I did feel it was important to have it preserved. Although from our theme earlier of sharing, hindsight is 2020 type stuff, I I don't know what I will ever do with my wedding dress, and it could honestly be donated and I would never know the difference. And then the last thing here on my list is freezing your wedding cake for the 1 year anniversary. We already touched on that. Again, it does require some proactive pre planning to make sure that somebody grabs the top tier or grabs a few slices of cake and makes sure that it will get home to you eventually. Okay, now we're going to shift into some things that don't necessarily need to be done immediately, but you'll want to keep a running list of these things to address in the month or the month or so beyond your wedding day. So, the first thing here is to send handwritten thank you notes. RSVPs, online invitations, all the online stuff has become mainstream, accepted. I think it's great. I love online RSVPs and invitations. I do not love online, emailed, or texted thank yous. Call me old fashioned, that's fine. You do you. I believe that you should send a thoughtful handwritten note to each and every guest who has shared their time with you throughout your wedding celebration. So get those thank you notes sent out as soon as possible. I mean, no like immediate rush to do this, but I personally certainly would not wait for months and months to do it break it down into small chunks. Do a few every day during your lunch break while you're waiting in line somewhere. It's a task that can feel kind of large and overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Just break it down and do a little bit at a time and get those thank you notes sent out as soon as possible. Next up is composing some thoughtful vendor reviews and submitting those or sharing those online in whatever format is appropriate. Once you have your pictures back, that's a great time to share those photos with tags on social media, or even just attach the pictures to a review that you submit on Yelp or Google or anywhere on the vendor's actual website. As a small business owner myself, I cannot emphasize enough how meaningful and how priceless it is to receive a great review from somebody who I have helped. So trust me, it is very meaningful. Your vendors will appreciate it so, so much. So go ahead and put that on your list of things to spend 10 minutes writing a really thoughtful review, sharing your experience. And hey, on the flip side, if your experience was not great, then that would be something I would personally share that directly with the vendor before I went and started posting all over, online reviews about it. That's just me. I would give the vendor or the business an opportunity to respond to you and to correct the mistake or correct the shortcoming. So that's on your list as well. And then completely switching gears away from that is your wedding album and any wedding prints that you want to order. Photographers kind of vary in how long they will take to get back your finalized pictures to you. It should be in your contract what time frame you can be expecting. But once you do have those back, ordering a wedding album, ordering any canvas prints for your home, that's a fun to-do list item. And then gifts. Let's move into gift registry themed things to do. First is return or exchange any duplicate gifts. Online wedding registries have become so smart that you may not have any duplicates. If you do, just go ahead and make sure to get credit for those. Of course, there are always wedding guests who go rogue and, and don't really use your registry, and that's fine too. Any gift is a great expression of generosity and is appreciated, so that's fine. But if it's something that you really do not need or that you already have multiples of, from a practical standpoint, I would not feel bad about returning those or exchanging those for something that you really can use. And then if you did a registry, if there are things that are missing, gifts that people did not grab and give. So this could be completing a set of china, it could be completing a set of bedding, towels. Purchase those things now before they go out of stock. John and I asked for this really beautiful hand painted set of appetizer plates from our registry. And we got, I think, no, maybe it was 7 out of 12. And we wanted the remaining five. And by the time we got around to thinking about it and wanting to order them, it was months and months later. And it had been discontinued. So they were no longer available. So we had this set of seven really beautiful plates, but I wish I had known to go on and complete that set right away. And I had known that they would go out of stock because I would have done that a lot sooner. So prioritize that. And then another reason to do this, expediently and in a timely fashion is that lots of gift registries will offer you a discount on anything that's remaining on the registry. So don't miss out on that savings opportunity if you can get that order in within the first month or so after your wedding. And then next on our list, get organized, get decluttered. Go ahead and donate or sell or repurpose any leftover wedding decor. A good example of this, many florists will bill you for the actual containers that the flowers are presented in, and you likely don't have a great use for 40 centerpiece containers. So wash them and dry them and list them for sale on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist so that another couple can purchase them from you and they can enjoy them. This also works for other decor you might have purchased, such as tablecloths, charger plates, lanterns, string lights. The obvious win here is recouping some of your initial investment. And then there's a double bonus for not having all this stuff cluttering up your storage space in your home. And here we get down into the dregs of the after the wedding stuff, changing your name. If you plan to change your last name, you're going to need to get that updated on all the life things. I remember this being a moderate to medium pain in the ass. It was pretty annoying. It took a pretty long time, but as long as you're organized and you can be consistent and kind of keep track of things, it shouldn't be that bad. So the first part is going to be getting multiple copies of your marriage certificate. And then you're going to want to start at the top. Think of the federal level. So this is your social security card, your passport. Moving down would be the state level. So think of your driver's license and your car registration or any car titles. And then the last level would be personal stuff. So your banks, your credit cards, your magazines, employer, insurance, medical providers, etc. We would be here all day for me to list off every specific thing for every situation. So, for detailed guidance specific to your state and country, do a Google search, type in marriage name change and your state, and you'll get plenty of resources for keeping this process organized. So that's the name change. You're also going to need to update your insurance and also beneficiaries on any financial accounts. So this is kind of two different parts here. The first part, the insurance, make sure your health insurance, car insurance, home, life insurance, make sure your name is updated on all of those. And then for the beneficiary side of things, this would most commonly apply to your retirement accounts and any financial investment accounts you have, any estate planning documents. Those are going to need to be rewritten to reflect your marriage. So contact the attorney that originally drew those for you and talk about getting those updated. And then last, but certainly not least, if you and your new spouse do not already have joint finances and that is something that you would like to do, now would be the time after you've got your new identification with your new name. Go ahead and set up joint bank accounts and update all of your financial information. Speaking of name change, I realized the other day that I actually still have my maiden name on our Amazon account. And it was also on our cable account, which we incidentally just canceled a couple months ago. So that's to say, I've been married for many, 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 many years, and I still haven't completed all of the name change stuff. Don't let it become overwhelming. I promise once you have the big stuff changed, you can address the little things as they come up. So, random subscriptions for magazines, your library cards, alumni networks, social media accounts, no rush. Do them as you come across them, and maybe you'll be like me, and in 12 years, you'll find your maiden name still on your Amazon account. Okay, that wraps it up for today. If you are still in the planning phase, bookmark this show to come back to, and also make yourself a calendar note to be in touch with me and share your key post-wedding takeaways after your wedding day. I have an open door. I always love to hear from you. Shoot me an email or leave a voicemail at weddingplanningpodcast.co/contact. And don't forget to visit that blog post. I will also link it in the show notes where you can find a complete checklist style recap of everything we covered today. That's at weddingplanningpodcast.co/after. All right, we'll talk again soon.